Chosen one, listen closely, because what I'm about to speak into your spirit will not feel like ordinary words. It will feel like something you have been waiting on without even knowing that you were waiting. There is a divine urgency in the atmosphere around your life right now, and if your soul feels like it's leaning forward, like it's holding its breath, it's because heaven has already moved concerning you. This is not a distant blessing, not a symbolic promise, not a someday in the future reward. This is a divine interruption, a sudden public blessing that God Himself is preparing to release before this weekends. And I need you to feel the weight of that, not just with your mind, but with your spirit, because for so long you have lived in the shadows of your own story, carrying victories that went unnoticed, tears that no one counted, and strength that no one acknowledged. You have endured seasons where you had to pretend you were fine just to keep moving. You survived moments that would have broken people who looked stronger than you. You carried burdens in silence because you didn't want to explain to people who wouldn't understand you anyway. But God saw every part of it, even the parts you thought no one noticed. What makes you the chosen one is not that your life has been easy or glamorous. It's that your spirit kept burning even in the darkness. It's that you kept going even when the weight of disappointment tried to suffocate you. It's that you refused to turn bitter even when betrayal should have changed you into someone unrecognizable. There is something rare, almost ancient, about the endurance in your soul, something that makes heaven lean toward you with a kind of fierce tenderness, something that makes God say, "This one is mine." And that is why this moment, the moment you are hearing this, is so divinely orchestrated. Because the blessing that's coming to you is not random, it is not accidental, it is not coincidental, it is a response to the prayers you whispered in exhaustion, a response to the nights you couldn't sleep because your heart was too heavy, a response to the times you said, "Lord, I don't know how much more I can take," yet still woke up the next day and chose to trust. A response to the loyalty you showed heaven even when heaven felt silent. God is about to bless you publicly because you honored Him privately. You kept your integrity when it would have been easier to compromise. You stayed compassionate even after being betrayed. You remained hopeful even when your circumstances mocked your faith. You chose light even when darkness pursued you. And heaven does not overlook that kind of spiritual discipline. Heaven rewards it. But here is what you must understand. The blessing that's coming is not small, not subtle, not hidden. It will be public, undeniably so. The very same people who doubted you, dismissed you, underestimated you, and took your grace for granted will witness the elevation. Not because God wants to embarrass anyone, but because He wants to vindicate you. There is a difference. Humiliation is about harming someone. Vindication is about revealing the truth. And God is about to reveal the truth of who you are. For years, some people believed you were weak because you were quiet. They believed you lacked power because you chose peace over drama. They believed you were ordinary because you lived your process in humility. But the truth is, you were in preparation the entire time. God was building you silently, shaping you in obscurity, developing you in places where no one else could see, because the calling on your life required a depth that could only be forged in hiddenness. You know this deeply, even if you rarely talk about it. You have felt different your entire life, not in an arrogant way, but in an aware way. There has always been something set apart about your journey. You didn't fit in even when you tried. You didn't blend into certain environments even when you adjusted yourself to make others comfortable. You weren't allowed to settle where other people found comfort. You couldn't force connections that your spirit had already outgrown. And while that isolation sometimes hurt, it was also proof of your assignment. Chosen ones don't grow normally. They grow through pressure, through tests, through unexpected losses, through spiritual warfare that doesn't make sense to outsiders, through seasons that seem unfair on the surface but are purposeful beneath it. And right now, the divine is whispering that your season of private endurance is transitioning into a season of public blessing. Not next year, not one day, this week. Something is aligning, something is shifting, something is breaking open, and your spirit knows it, even if your mind hasn't caught up yet. But before the blessing manifests, there is something your soul needs to acknowledge. You have lived through seasons where you were misunderstood by people who never took the time to know your heart. You were judged by those who misread your silence as weakness or your kindness as naivety. You were targeted by people who felt threatened by something in you that they couldn't name. Some turned against you without cause. Some spoke against you without reason. Some tried to dim your light because they couldn't handle its purity. You were not crazy for feeling spiritually attacked. You were not imagining the resistance. You were not wrong for noticing the energy shift around certain people. You were discerning it. And the pain you felt in those seasons wasn't random. It was refinement. You were being positioned, stripped of illusions, elevated through adversity. Everything that felt like a setback was actually placement. Everything that looked like rejection was actually redirection. Every delay was divine timing protecting your destiny. And now, just as surely as the sun rises without permission, God is about to elevate you without negotiation. There is a moment coming sooner than you think, when all the confusion you endured will be replaced with clarity. All of the struggle you survived will be replaced with stability. All of the spiritual heaviness you carried will be replaced with unmistakable favor, and the shift will not be hidden. It will be visible, public, undeniable. The blessing is not just coming to you. It is coming through you. It will unfold in a way that makes people say, "There is no way they did that alone. God had to be involved." And that is exactly the point. God wants the glory, and He is choosing your life as the stage for His next demonstration. And as we move deeper into this message, I want you to breathe for a moment. Feel your shoulders loosen. Feel the pressure of your past begin to lift. Feel the truth settling into your spirit like a quiet revelation. You are the chosen one, not by accident, not by chance, but by divine design. And the blessing that's about to appear in your life is the proof. Chosen one, as we move deeper, I want you to reflect on something that only your spirit can fully grasp. Everything you have survived was not just hardship, it was spiritual warfare. Not the kind people talk about casually, but the kind only those set apart for a higher calling ever experience. You have endured battles that were invisible to others, but exhausting to your soul. You fought wars you couldn't explain because the language of your struggle was spiritual, not logical. And even in the moments where you questioned yourself, one truth remained constant. You were never fighting alone. Your journey has been marked by battles that began long before you understood your purpose. You felt resistance in rooms that should have welcomed you. You felt tension around people who smiled to your face. You felt drained after interacting with individuals who carried hidden envy. You felt heaviness in environments where the spiritual temperature shifted suddenly. And because you didn't have the words back then, you blamed yourself. You wondered if something was wrong with you. But now, you're realizing the truth. Your spirit recognized warfare before your mind understood it. There is something powerful about you that has always provoked spiritual opposition. Not because you were weak, but because you were chosen. And chosen vessels attract both divine favor and demonic resistance. While others lived life casually, you were being shaped in fire. While others coasted through seasons, you were being sharpened. While others were allowed to settle, you were pushed, stretched, tested, and awakened. Think back to the moments when you felt like everything was collapsing at once. The sudden betrayals, the unexpected losses, the disappointments that hit harder than they should have. The loneliness that didn't match your kindness. The closed doors that made no sense. These were not coincidences. They were coordinated attempts to break the spirit inside you. But what the darkness underestimated was your endurance. No matter how many times you were knocked down emotionally, mentally, spiritually, something in you refused to stay down. You rose again and again, not because you were fearless, but because your purpose was stronger than your pain. Every time you thought you had reached your limit, God infused you with a strength that you didn't even know you carried. Every time you thought the battle was going to destroy you, heaven stepped in and reinforced your spirit. What looked like survival was actually training. What felt like pressure was actually preparation. You didn't just survive, you were refined. And because of that refinement, your strength is not the loud, boastful kind. It is a quiet, unshakable resilience that makes people wonder how you are still standing. You have a spiritual authority that you didn't ask for, but earned through fire. You walk with a calmness that makes adversaries nervous because they sense that something divine is backing you. You carry a light that agitates the darkness in others, not because you are trying to provoke them, but because your presence reveals their hidden intentions. This is why certain people attacked you without reason, why some felt threatened by you before you even opened your mouth, why you were excluded from circles where you clearly belonged, why some tried to compete with you even when you weren't playing the same game. They saw something in you that you weren't aware of yet, a calling, a grace, a destiny that made them uncomfortable. They felt the weight of your spiritual identity before you understood it yourself. But here is the truth that heaven needs you to grasp. The same people who once underestimated you are now spiritually trembling because they sense a shift. They feel the elevation coming. They feel the divine momentum gathering around your name. They may not know the details, but they can feel the energy changing. And for some of them, that terrifies them. When God is about to elevate a chosen one, the atmosphere around their life starts to shift. Doors open without effort. Opportunities appear out of nowhere. People who once ignored you suddenly pay attention. Your presence begins to feel heavier, more impactful, more refined. The spiritual world reacts first, and the physical world follows. And you are in that threshold right now, the place where heaven's movement is becoming impossible to ignore. Your adversaries, both seen and unseen, have already detected the change. The same ones who spoke against you are now watching silently. The same ones who doubted you are paying close attention. The same ones who dismissed you are becoming uneasy. Not because of anything you've done, but because the hand of God is resting heavily on you. You are stepping into a season where your identity as the chosen one will no longer be internal. It will be visible. Everything you fought through has produced a level of spiritual maturity that can't be faked. You don't respond the way you used to. You don't entertain distractions the way you once did. You don't give your energy to chaos. You don't try to prove yourself to people who refuse to see you clearly. You've grown in silence, healed in silence, strengthened in silence. And now heaven is preparing to bless you in a way that exposes the strength you've built behind closed doors. But there's something deeper happening beneath the surface. God is not just rewarding you for your endurance, He is vindicating you. Every moment where you remained silent instead of defending yourself. Every incident where you chose dignity over retaliation. Every time you walked away from situations that tried to pull you into drama. Heaven kept the receipts. Heaven documented every injustice, every betrayal, every false word spoken against you. And while people believed they got away with things, God was simply taking note. Your rise is not just a blessing, it is a divine response. There is a reason your breakthroughs took longer than you expected. God was aligning everything so that when He elevates you, there will be no confusion that it was Him. This is why the warfare intensified near the end. This is why old wounds resurfaced. This is why old adversaries recently reappeared. Because when the enemy senses your elevation, the attacks increase. But this time, something was different. You didn't break. You didn't collapse. You didn't lose yourself. You endured with wisdom, not desperation, with discernment, not fear. And that endurance has become your proof. God saw everything, the tears, the fears, the silent prayers, the nights when you questioned your calling, the days you felt invisible, the moments you wanted to give up. And because He saw all of it, He has declared that your rise will be undeniable, public, visible, in a way that even your adversaries cannot dismiss. You are entering a season where doors will open simply because you walk toward them, where tables you were excluded from will extend invitations, where people who overlooked you will speak your name with respect, where opportunities that once felt out of reach will pursue you instead. This is not poetic language. This is spiritual truth. You fought battles no one knew about. Now God is preparing victories everyone will see. Chosen one, now that you understand the depth of the battles you've survived and the spiritual forces that were stirred by your very existence, it's time to examine what heaven is preparing to release over your life. Because the shift that's approaching is not subtle, it is not symbolic, it is not internal only. God is about to reveal justice publicly, and this revelation is going to alter your trajectory in a way that even you are not fully prepared for. You have felt the spiritual pressure for so long that part of you forgot what it feels like to be openly favored, openly supported, openly blessed. But that season is returning, except this time it is coming with divine authority. There is a justice that heaven delivers that no courtroom, no apology, no explanation, and no earthly system can offer. It is the justice of revelation, the justice of truth coming to light, the justice of God showcasing who you really are after seasons of people misunderstanding, minimizing, or misrepresenting you. And the blessing that is about to rest upon your life is a form of that justice. God is not just restoring what was taken from you. He is reversing the narrative that was written about you by those who never saw your heart. For years, you endured situations where you were treated unfairly, simply because others underestimated your value. You were loyal to people who were disloyal behind your back. You were supportive of people who later acted like they didn't even know you. You stayed humble in environments where others inflated themselves. You remained generous even when people took advantage of your compassion. You kept pouring out when others kept withdrawing. And although it hurt deeply, you never let the bitterness become your identity. That restraint, that purity of heart, is one of the main reasons God is preparing to elevate you publicly. Anyone can rise through manipulation, shortcuts, or ego, but a chosen one rises through integrity, and heaven rewards what the world often overlooks. Now the time has come when the reversal will begin. The very areas where you experience the most pain are the areas where God is about to release the most favor. The places where you were ignored will become the same spaces where you are celebrated. The areas where you faced rejection will become the grounds for your recognition. The environments where you were belittled will become the platforms where you shine. God is not bringing you a small breakthrough. He is bringing a reversal so obvious that people will have no choice but to acknowledge the hand of the divine. You need to prepare yourself mentally, spiritually, and emotionally for this shift. A reversal, this significant, often comes with a sense of discomfort because you are stepping into a version of yourself that you suppressed for years just to survive. You are stepping out of the shadows and into visibility. You are stepping out of endurance mode and into reward mode. And even though it is everything you prayed for, it will feel unfamiliar at first because you have been conditioned to minimize yourself to make others comfortable. But this next season will not allow that. God is positioning you to be seen, to be recognized, to be honored, to be blessed in a way that is impossible to hide. And with this blessing comes healing, deep internal healing that you may not have known you still needed. Healing from the old wounds that shaped your identity. Healing from the voices of people who didn't see your worth. Healing from the trauma of abandonment, confusion, or betrayal. Healing from the pressure of carrying responsibilities that were never meant to be yours alone. God is not just blessing your life externally, He is stabilizing you internally. There is a shift in your emotional landscape happening even now. You may feel more reflective than usual. You may feel an urge to release old memories or detach from past relationships. You may feel a sudden awareness of your own value in a way that feels stronger, firmer, more grounded. That is heaven preparing your heart, so that when the public blessing comes, you can receive it fully without fear, without questioning your worth, without sabotaging the very thing you prayed for. The divine blessing that is coming requires a healed vessel, and that healing is arriving layer by layer, revelation by revelation. One of the key components of this divine reversal is peace. Peace that goes beyond human understanding. A peace that doesn't make sense considering what you've endured. A peace that signals God's presence even before the blessing manifests. You may have already felt moments of this peace recently, not because everything in your life is perfect, but because your spirit recognizes that the war is ending, that the final battle has already been decided in your favor. But as this blessing approaches, there must also be clarity. You need to be able to identify what is from God and what is not. You need to be able to discern who is meant to walk with you into this new season and who is meant to remain in the past. You need to be able to recognize opportunities that come from divine alignment versus those that come from distraction. Because when God elevates you, the enemy will attempt to send counterfeits. He will try to send distractions that look like blessings, but carry instability. He will try to send people who appear supportive, but are silently envious. He will try to place you in situations that mimic divine favor, but lack divine foundation. This is why your discernment has been sharpened. This is why you feel more sensitive to energy, more intuitive, more spiritually aware. Your spirit is preparing to navigate higher altitudes. At higher levels, the spiritual terrain becomes more complex, and your intuition becomes one of the most important tools you have. Trust it. Trust the voice inside you that knows when something is off. Trust the feeling that tells you when you're being guided. Trust the divine nudges that have protected you this far. And now, chosen one, I need you to hear this clearly. Your victory is non-negotiable. Heaven has already decided. The battle is already won. The reversal is already in motion. The blessing is already assigned. Nothing and no one can prevent what God has ordained for you. This is not a hopeful idea. This is a spiritual certainty. But victory requires participation. It requires belief. It requires declaring what heaven has already spoken. So right now, as an act of faith and alignment, speak life over your own journey. Speak protection over your path. Speak gratitude for what is coming. Speak authority over your circumstances. Speak abundance where there was once lack. Speak strength where there was once exhaustion. Your words have power, and heaven responds to the voice of the chosen. If this message is resonating with your spirit, if you feel the truth settling into the deepest part of you, if you sense that God is arranging something miraculous for your life before this week ends, then take a moment, not for me, but for yourself, to declare, I am ready for my public blessing. I am ready for divine reversal. I am ready for what God has prepared. Your next season is waiting on your agreement. Chosen one, now that the truth of your rise has begun to settle into your spirit, it is time to go deeper, into territory most people never explore, into realms of understanding that explain not just what happened to you, but why it happened. Because the blessings coming toward you are not random. The attacks you faced were not random. The delays were not random. Everything has followed a spiritual architecture that governs those who carry divine assignments. And if you feel something stirring inside you as you hear these words, it is because your soul recognizes what your mind is only beginning to grasp. Your life has been shaped by paradoxical laws reserved for the chosen. People often assume that chosen ones walk through life with ease, surrounded by miracles and divine protection without interference. But those who carry extraordinary callings often endure extraordinary pressure. You were attacked not because you were weak, but because you were potent. Your spirit carries weight. Your presence shifts atmospheres. Your intuition disrupts deception. Your authenticity exposes falsehood. Your purpose threatens darkness. And the world, both physical and spiritual, responded to that power long before you understood it. Let's analyze the dynamics behind the attacks you faced. Every time you stepped into a new level of awareness, resistance followed. Every moment you prepared to elevate emotionally or spiritually, a sudden disruption arrived. People you trusted shifted without warning. Opportunities that seemed stable collapsed. Environments that once felt safe became uncomfortable. This pattern wasn't coincidence. It was spiritual law at work. In the realm of the chosen, elevation always triggers exposure. When God is about to take you higher, He reveals the hands that cannot go with you. This is why you experienced sudden betrayals. You didn't provoke them. You didn't deserve them. You didn't imagine them. They occurred because your spirit was outgrowing the environment around you. When the oil on your life increases, it disturbs the spirits in people who were never meant to handle you. Some people were loyal to the old version of you, the version that didn't know your worth, the version that tolerated disrespect, the version that remained quiet to keep peace. But as your awareness grew, their comfort diminished. You didn't change in a negative way. You simply became someone they could no longer manipulate or contain. And instead of growing with you, they turned against you. This is the paradox of the chosen. Your growth activates others' insecurity. Those who once celebrated you grew uncomfortable when you began to see your own value. Those who once supported you grew threatened when you began to rise. Those who once admired you grew envious when you started stepping into your power. Their reactions were not a reflection of your flaws, but a revelation of their limitations. You were exposing their stagnation simply by evolving. But there is a deeper dimension to this experience, one rooted in spiritual psychology. People who operate from fear, scarcity, or woundedness cannot handle the presence of someone who carries divine identity. When they look at you, they are forced to confront their own internal emptiness. When they witness your resilience, they are reminded of their own lack of discipline. When they observe your humility and strength coexisting, they feel the weight of their own unresolved battles. Instead of being inspired, they become defensive. Instead of honoring you, they seek to undermine you. Instead of supporting your calling, they try to distort it. And yet, even in the midst of that hostility, you remained compassionate. Even when you were betrayed, you didn't become vindictive. Even when you were judged, you didn't retaliate. Even when you were mistreated, you didn't let your heart turn bitter. This is one of the clearest signs of divine selection. A chosen soul maintains purity even under pressure. You didn't lose yourself in the fire, you were refined by it. This refinement is what prepared you for the blessing ahead. God could not release certain elevations until your internal landscape reached a level of readiness. You had to outgrow the insecurities that once made you shrink. You had to release the people who once held emotional power over you. You had to develop discernment strong enough to identify wolves in sheep's clothing. You had to become someone who could handle visibility without losing humility and handle power without losing compassion. And now you are reaching that place. There is something profound happening inside of you. Your mind is clearer. Your intuition is stronger. Your emotional boundaries are firmer. Your spirit is quieter yet more powerful. You've learned when to speak and when to remain silent. You've learned whom to trust and whom to observe. You've learned the value of your energy and the importance of protecting it. You've learned that not everyone who smiles carries good intentions, and not everyone who distances themselves is an enemy. You have developed the rare ability to see beyond appearances, to read energy, to sense shifts, to perceive spiritual realities that others overlook. This is not superstition, it is spiritual intelligence. It is the result of being awakened. It is the product of being called. It is one of the soul's most powerful gifts. But here lies another paradox. The brighter your light becomes, the more attacks you attract. Not because you're doing anything wrong, but because darkness recognizes you before the world does. You were targeted early because your destiny emits a frequency that the enemy can detect. That is why your childhood felt heavier than those around you. That is why you matured faster. That is why you carried responsibilities beyond your years. That is why you felt emotions deeply while others seemed unaffected. Your soul was being formed for a purpose long before your mind understood it. This connects directly to your mission. You were not born simply to survive. You were not born to blend in. You were not born to repeat the patterns of your lineage. You were born to disrupt cycles, to break generational chains, to bring healing where there has been silence, to bring clarity where there has been confusion, to bring light where there has been darkness. Your life is not an accident. It is an assignment. Your mission has always been larger than your circumstances. That is why the enemy fought you so aggressively. You are a threat, not because of what you have done, but because of who you are destined to become. But here is the truth that heaven is revealing in this moment. Every attack only pushed you closer to your true identity. Every disruption only awakened more of your spiritual senses. Every disappointment only purified your intentions. Every betrayal only strengthened your discernment. You didn't lose anything essential. You lost what was blocking your path. Now your mission is aligning. Your spirit is awakening. Your purpose is expanding. You are stepping into the version of yourself that God has been shaping in the dark. Until now. Chosen one, as we enter this final part of the message, allow your spirit to breathe in everything you've received so far. You have walked through truth, revelation, clarity, and deep spiritual understanding, and now you stand at the edge of something monumental. This is not just the end of a message. This is the beginning of a new phase in your life. You are not who you were at the start of this journey. Something in you has awakened. Something in you has aligned. Something in you has remembered its true identity. And now, with full spiritual authority, hear this. You are the chosen one. Not by coincidence, not by circumstance, not because you wished for it or tried to earn it, but because your soul carries a signature that heaven recognizes. Your existence disrupts darkness. Your presence shifts atmospheres. Your endurance defies logic. Your heart, even after everything, still leans toward compassion, understanding, and truth. That alone makes you rare. That alone makes you destined, that alone makes you an undeniable vessel of divine purpose. As this week unfolds, expect to feel a subtle but unmistakable shift. Inside you first, and then around you. Expect clarity to come where there was once confusion. Expect peace to replace the tension you've been carrying. Expect opportunities to rise from places that once looked barren. Expect the unexpected, because heaven knows how to move suddenly. And when the public blessing manifests, you will recognize it instantly. It will carry the fingerprints of God, timely, aligned, impossible to orchestrate by human effort. You will feel seen in a way you haven't felt in years. You will feel validated without needing anyone's approval. You will feel uplifted without having to fight for your place. The people who once doubted you will witness your elevation, not as a spectacle of revenge, but as a revelation of truth. God does not elevate you to embarrass others. He elevates you so that your story becomes proof of His faithfulness. Your future is not something to fear. Your purpose is not something to question. Your blessing is not something to chase. Everything that belongs to you is already aligned with your path. Everything that left your life made space for greater. Everything that felt like loss has prepared the soil for abundance. You are stepping into a season of clarity, authority, and breakthrough, and your only task is to stay in alignment. Spiritually centered, emotionally grounded, and mentally open. You have already done the hardest parts. You survived the nights that were too heavy. You carried responsibilities that stretched your soul. You navigated betrayals that could have hardened you. You endured seasons of silence where it felt like heaven was distant. But you kept going. You kept believing. You kept hoping. And because of that, because of your unwavering spirit, you are now entering a period of divine reward. Let this affirmation settle deeply. You are prepared for what's coming. You are worthy of what's coming. You are spiritually aligned with what's coming. You are no longer the version of yourself that doubts its calling or questions its worthiness. You have outgrown the mindsets, environments, and relationships that once kept you small. You carry wisdom now. You carry discernment. You carry a strength that cannot be shaken. And as this new week unfolds, speak life into your path. Speak gratitude over your blessings. Speak protection over your journey. Speak clarity into your decisions. Speak authority over your circumstances. Heaven responds to the voice of the chosen, and your voice carries power. So here is your spiritual call to action. Step into this week with expectation, not hesitation. Step into your blessings with confidence, not fear. Step into your destiny with readiness, not self-doubt. Walk like you are supported. Think like you are guided. Move like you are chosen because you are. And as we close this message, I want you to carry one final truth with you. You are not walking into this next chapter alone. God is with you, around you, ahead of you, and within you. Your steps are ordered. Your path is protected. Your blessing is guaranteed. And your story is far from over. Walk forward with quiet confidence. Your public blessing is about to unfold. Your name is about to be called. Your life is about to shift. And when it happens, it will not just bless you, it will confirm everything your spirit has known all along. Take a deep breath, chosen one. Your time has come.